shy, don't stall, we got a funky vibe, yeah. Welcome all, it's a safe spot where the truth unwinds. Share your thoughts, leave your worries behind. Woo! Defense Fest, that's where you belong. Click that like and groove along. Hit subscribe, let the love flow free. Join the fam where you're meant to be. Woo! Got mysteries, stories, a thrilling ride. We dig deep, ain't no secrets to hide. No judgment here, just an open crew. We're all about justice and the honest view. Yeah, Defense Fest, that's where you belong. Click that like and groove along. Hit subscribe, let the love flow free. Join the fam where you're meant to be.
G'day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are from, wherever you are watching. You are very welcome, and I'm very grateful that you're here. Right, impromptu live. Yep. So, hello, Tricia. Welcome. I just saw you enter. You can't lurk here. So let me explain. I am an avid follower of Samantha Beninga over at I Don't Belong Here. She is a behavioral psychologist. She's got lots and lots of names and lots of letters behind her name. So she's been really analysing pretty much for the last 18 months the entire Karen Reid case. Oh dear, I've got kitties. And she does it from a psychological perspective, which is great for me because I come at it from a scientific medical perspective. And so it gives me a good understand or a better understanding from just looking at it from one set of eyes. And we've all looked at it, studied it, made our impressions, our opinions, taken what we have from all the evidence and made our own conclusions. Hello, sweetheart. You are here. So, she recently put up a trilogy of videos. Basically, she'd stumbled across some behaviors that she, I wouldn't say missed, but like misinterpreted perhaps. And she was going back looking at some of the interviews the testimonies of Julie Nagel, Helen Maxwell. Oh, what's her name? Brian Nagel's girlfriend at the time. Then and the girls in the house. And she compared it to the testimonies of what's her name? Kolstikas? Oh, I can't even say her name. Anyway, I've got their channels in the description box. You can whiz over and have a look. I can't say the lady's last name that testified. It was the lovely couple that stayed at the end, Kolokolisis or whatever it was. I paused that right up. So she basically came and showed you what a normal question and answer looked like in a courtroom, basically. So there was a question asked, there was an answer given, there was no narrative, there was no storyline, there was no extra information. It was intent listening to the question and then a response without the fluff. And then she compared it to a number of other witnesses, as well as identifying some of the traits that can be linked to deception. And an epiphany occurred to her. So it was like, oh, that's amazing. That's right. That fits. Okay, sweet. Love it. And then I went and watched another video from another YouTuber in the true crime, and it's called Case Analysis. and it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God. Hello. Yes. Yes. After watching that and putting the two together, I've just gone. So I thought I would share it with you. I've got a couple of other things that I'd like to add to the package, basically, but for me, they've hit it. It's in a nutshell. It's the closest thing that explains everything together in one go as to what happened. For me, anyway, because I have to be really, really convinced and really, really, it has to fit my square box into a round hole, basically, and that the connotations of that. Don't go there. All right, let's get into it. So I have their channels linked in the description box. Get over and give them a like and a sub because they're amazing. They really give a good perspective. But this is just, I was going to do snippets and do it myself, but she presents it so well, it ain't worth me doing it. So let's watch together. Let me know if you can hear it properly. Ready, steady, go.
There are two conflicting, contrasting theories, and the public doesn't have an answer yet.
We need to look deeper at what actually happened to John O'Keefe.
I'll sit here and eat my porridge while we're watching.
The Commonwealth's narrative surrounding the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe has crumbled. With the acquittal of Karen Read, the focus must now shift away from a pedestrian collision and toward a truth that, in my opinion, was engineered and covered up. We are no longer debating a vehicular homicide. We are seeking the alleged truth of what possibly happened inside a home and what was done in the immediate, panicked aftermath. The digital evidence, combined with testimony and science, tells us that within minutes of arrival, John was incapacitated and a cover-up had begun. To understand the full scope of this alleged conspiracy, we have to look past the surface, drown out all of the noise, and consider the motivation. If this theory that I am sharing with you is true, the Alberts would have the means, motive, and opportunity to commit a crime and plot a cover-up.
You need to look at the folks inside 34 Fairview. You need to look really hard at the homeowners. You need to look really hard at the occupants of the house. Something here is more than meets the eye.
After the second trial ended, I went back to the beginning. But this time I watched the first and second trials with fresh eyes, completely ignoring all of the collision BS. The defense proved that definitively, and twice at that. For a long time, the altercation theory made the most sense to me, and there is still a strong possibility that is what happened. But watching with new eyes, without the bias of a vehicle collision clouding everything, and more evidence in hand, I began cutting through the noise, combining testimonies and timing, cross-referencing statements, looking for patterns, eliminating what didn't hold, and piece by piece, names started to float away. A different picture formed for me, one that even shocked me. Studying the extremely tight timeline left me with more questions than answers if an altercation occurred. Dr. LaPosada's testimony is what really drew me away from a physical altercation. I think initially seeing John's autopsy photos is what strongly led me to believe in the altercation theory. But that was before I learned about coup contra coup and ecchymosis.
Ecchymosis is a medical term for bruise. He had a bruise on his brain at the back of the brain and at the front of the brain. When you have, when the brain it slaps forcefully against the base of the skull, the delicate bones above the eye break. And that's, again, the coup contra coup, where the brain slaps forward. And when those delicate bones are broken, there's bleeding, and that bleeding then goes right down into the upper eyelids. So it kind of looks like you have black eyes, but there's not been any punch to the face. But there's not been any punch to the face. It's only come from the skull fracture. That's sometimes called raccoon eyes because you look like a little raccoon.
When you remove John's injuries that were associated with resuscitation, IVs, or tubes, what is basically left is the horrible exterior head injury, which resulted in internal injuries from coup contre coup and small cuts on his right eyelid and left nostril. On the right arm, a distinct pattern of parallel scratches and superficial abrasions. Dr. La Posada stated that an object did not hit John's head, which is very important to note, because many theorized he was hit in the head with possibly a weight in the basement.
When you have a blow to the head, the blow can either be the stationary head and there's a blow to it, or you can have the head that's moving and gets the blow. So looking at a pattern of coup contre coup helps the forensic pathologist differentiate that. A coup contre coup injury examines the coup, which is where the impact occurred, and then we look at what's 180 degrees opposite that impact, and that's called the contra coup, or like opposite the coup. And that injury pattern helps us determine whether a person was just having a fixed head and somebody hit it, or whether the head was just standing and went down to the ground. The coup contre coup of a falling or being pushed backward has injury patterns where the impact occurred, but then there's also injury patterns 180 degrees opposite from that. And that happens because the brain is floating in cerebral spinal fluid. And when the head comes down, the brain is a little bit behind. So you get the bang on the back of the head, but then because the brain is floating, it hits the inside of the opposite side of the head. And so that makes the contra coup.
All right, I'm going to share a photo with you. Just a warning, there it is graphic. My graphic warning up. Still got it? No, there we go. So let me share this. You dipshit, go back. Dipshit. Share screen. Thank you. Window. There. Okay. This is a picture of a coup contre coup injury. The raccoon shoot on your Jody. You just completely skipped it. That's what happens when your fingers don't work properly. Okay. Move that up. And make it bigger. Good. Yeah, that's bigger, all right. Too big. So you can see the puffiness around the eyelids itself. Okay, so that's not come from a punch from the front. That's come from pressure built up behind the eye in the brain, okay, from the hemorrhaging. And that's what causes the raccoon eyes. When you have punch, you know, you've seen boxers when they finish their matches, their eyeballs shut and they've got bruising both on the top and the bottom. And 9 times out of 10, you'll have a laceration where the occipital bone meets, because that's the point on your eyebrow is got the least amount of cushioning behind it, and that's the bit that normally splits when you see a punch to the face, which I would have expected, given that both Bryans had boxing experience. So there wouldn't have been a pissy little laceration. There would have been it would have been cut open if it was actually from a punch. Now, you have another one whilst I'm here, because I want you to remember exactly what the head injury itself looked like. So again, graphic content warning. Because this is important. The actual pattern on the back and the way that Dr. Laposada explains it and describes it, it meets, like the injury meets the cause, so to speak. So if that makes sense. Okay, so you have here the horizontal laceration, okay, that's about, what, 3.5 inches? And then you have these marks. It's not a very clear photo, I apologise. These marks above it, the straight marks. And that's if you've hit a surface that's like at 90 degrees, but that angle on the corner is rough. So can you imagine if you get a block of cheese and you scrape it down a bumpy surface, you get those lines in the cheese that are left there. So basically the impact has happened, and as he's gone down, his head has slid on, the full weight of his body has slid him down to rest at the very top there. You can actually see the little dots here, like the grains of sand type of thing, where it's rested there after the impact. All right, let's go back and listen to my mouse is possessed, I believe. Okay. Go back and share the other one. Go.
That tells us that there's been a fall backwards.
Nothing
and
caused
hitting
that on the
head.
ground.
Dr. Laposada said that John fell backwards from a medium to large force and his head hit a surface. And she was very detailed about what type of surface. Another aspect that stood out to me differently this time around was Allie McCabe's testimony. She said something under pressure and had an emotional reaction that I don't think she realized was a confession.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed he was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home.
Colin wasn't there when John was. If you're trying to protect Colin by saying he wasn't there, you just admitted John was there. This is nothing new. Many people caught this slip up, and the focus was on the shock of Allie admitting John was there at 34 Fairview, which caused another part of the statement to be overshadowed. In my opinion, Allie, who is very young, was under extreme pressure and reacted emotionally, and she didn't realize she just confirmed John was there in the heat of standing up for Colin. If she was being honest, she also confirmed Colin was not there. The kid with the reputation, the history, the obvious suspect. I was convinced he was involved, and he very well could be. I went back and studied his testimony and behavior again, and I started believing he really did leave at 12:10 a.m. I know that shocked me too, and just bear with me on this. There was such an effort to keep Colin out of this. What if they tried to keep Colin out specifically because he really wasn't there when it happened, and they knew his history would position him as a prime suspect? What if all that rage we've seen from his parents? What if it's fury that their son is being accused of something he didn't do? Oh, the irony. Aaron Reed's legal team announced who they're suing in the civil case. Colin's name wasn't on that list. That stopped me cold. Why would Karen's team, who have access to so much more information we do not know, not include Colin if they believed he was involved? Maybe it is strategy, or maybe the evidence points to others. Now, I may be giving this group of people too much credit, but it is next level for parents to pull their children into a cover-up and put them in a position to lie to law enforcement and lie on the stand. And it also adds additional risk for those that instigated the potential cover-up. Caitlin Albert strikes me as very chatty, the type who would accidentally say something incriminating without even realizing it. It would have been much smarter to send her to Tristan's for the night. Brian Jr., with his anxiety, that's a lot to place on him. Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel? I don't think these adults would trust this young group with a secret this big if they had a choice. So it would be such a huge risk. So I started narrowing the circle. I eliminated the young crew, which left me with 5 people: Brian Higgins, Brian and Nicole Albert, Matt and Jen McCabe. And I started going through each one. Could Jen hurt John? I don't think so. She seemed almost enamored with him to me. Matt McCabe? I don't think he could hurt a fly. Maybe talk a fly to death, though. If Higgins did it, none of these people would protect him. They barely know him, and he's not part of the family. Brian Albert even said Higgins was not a close friend.
Are you close friends with Brian Higgins?
I wouldn't describe it as close friends, no.
It also seems Higgins ironically ghosted the group at some point, which I find very interesting. Another moment that stood out to me was Higgins tearing up on the stand a few times. Actual emotion for John was extremely rare in those testimonies.
And I shot him a text and said, do you want me to clear the driveway for you?
So using the same plow that you were talking about before, you would offer to clear out his driveway.
Yes. And then John's nephew, and I don't know if his niece was there. She might have been in the other room. We were playing video games together.
I think the Harley gear, the big Jeep tattoos, the Jameson, the Fed credentials, I believe it's all an exterior shell. He wants to be this tough guy and alpha male, but he's not. He's just not made that way. So that left me with 2 people, Brian Albert and someone I had not seriously considered, Nicole Albert. Another thing that kept gnawing at me. Why is Jen McCabe fighting this hard, like someone with everything to lose? Why would she volunteer to be the so-called communications director and be so involved? What stake does she have in this that would make her risk everything? Her reputation, her freedom, her family? A sister. Jen is Nicole's sister. And you don't fight like this unless you're protecting someone extremely, extremely close.
Yep.
I don't see her fighting this hard for her brother-in-law, Brian Albert, but it is very possible she would fight this hard for a blood relative. And that's when I started asking the question, could Nicole somehow have more involvement? Let me walk you through this theory.
Now, just what?
In the quiet town of Canton, Massachusetts.
Just clear everything. Pretend you've never seen it before and just listen.
The night of January 28th, 2022 began in celebration. But what transpired in the early morning hours of January 29th would tear a community apart, exposing a chilling web of deception, lies, and a desperate cover-up. Our investigation takes us inside 34 Fairview Road, the home of Brian and Nicole Albert, a seemingly ordinary suburban colonial.
Take note of the layout of the house from this central breezeway door here, what's directly behind it, because it's important when I go back to Samantha's
home. Yet its unique layout will prove crucial in the unfolding tragedy.
Yeah.
So I had a few friends over from
A seeming deception, lies, and your home. Get its unique layout.
Okay, so we're looking here. Where is it? This bit here is the breezeway door. I think, is it? No, here. Sorry, right there. All right, and then you've got to the right of that the garage. You see where my little pointer is? Right there. And in front of that is the little porch area, and then over this side is the front door. Okay, so if you come in the front door, you turn a right, and you're in the dining room, which is an open room into the kitchen with a doorway leading into the living room with the fireplace and the hearth that you saw with the big TV on the top. And into that room is the door, the breezeway door. Okay?
Prove crucial in the unfolding tragedy.
So I had a few friends over for my birthday.
About 6 vodkas.
As it is approaching midnight, Brian Jr., Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, and Colin Albert are all clustered
All right,
in the
see that? That is the kitchen dining area, and that doorway there with the white architraves is the living area, and the breezeway door is just to the right of that. So if someone came in that breezeway door into the living room, no one from the dining room table would be able to see that. Okay? Until they came to the doorway entrance, obviously.
kitchen dining room area. Laughter, music, singing, and dancing. At 11:54 p.m., Colin Albert sends a text to Allie McCabe that he is ready for her to pick him up. Midnight strikes, and Brian Jr. turns 23.
23? 23, I think? Yeah, 23.
Around 12:10 a.m., Brian, Nicole, and Caitlin Albert enter 34 Fairview. Higgins not far behind. Nicole and Caitlin enter through the front door.
I think that night, because of the weather and it was wet out, I think I went in the front door so I could walk into the foyer and take my shoes off or wipe my feet or whatever. But some of the other people still may have gone in the side door.
I went in the front door. So I would have gotten out and walked on the brick path over to the front door area, walked up the steps, and then walked through the door that enters into like a foyer area.
While the Bryans enter through the breezeway door.
I believe I went in the door on the right, which goes into the den.
So I came through what I would call like a breezeway door. So there's a front door to the residence. There's the garages, and in between there is a like a breezeway door.
At the same time, Allie arrives and texts Colin that she is there. The Alberts enter, greet everyone, and Colin heads out the breezeway door as Allie is waiting for him in the driveway. Colin does not mention Brian Higgins.
12:10. I got a text message from her that says, "I'm here." The side door next to the garage. As I was walking out, I saw my Uncle Brian and my Aunt Nicole. They were coming in.
Was Higgins possibly parking in the driveway across the street? Caitlin joins the party. Nicole begins to clean, and Brian Albert goes to the bathroom.
So I come in, I assume I, said happy birthday to my son, said hello to his friends, and then I just kind of went to the kitchen area, and like they had ordered food, and so I just did my usual thing. I just was picking up, wasn't a huge mess, but I was just picking up the area, cleaning, probably check the bathroom to make sure that was clean. Just my usual thing that I do, just picking up around the house. So my son, Brian, and his two friends, Julie and Sarah, were just kind of sitting at a kitchen table in like the dining room area of the kitchen.
Yes, after saying hi to everybody, I went to the bathroom.
Was that upstairs or downstairs?
I'm not sure I have a bathroom downstairs. I end up not downstairs, but on that floor and then upstairs. So I'm not sure which one I went to.
When you came
I think
back
it was
home-
upstairs.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I think it may have been upstairs, but I'm not sure.
We find out after the fact that the Alberts owned a 70 to 90 pound German Shepherd that was inside the house that night.
You owned a dog at the time, correct?
Yes.
The German Shepherd named Chloe.
Yes. Mix.
Describe that dog as being not great with strangers. Isn't that true?
I did describe it that way, yes. She wasn't overly affectionate with strangers. She was a heavy dog. Not everybody likes dogs. So if there's going to be people at the house that don't know the dog, they might not particularly want her around them. It's never has the dog, to my knowledge, been aggressive to anybody except for the time that there was a fight between two dogs.
Chloe actually has a well-documented fight history, doesn't she?
Does she?
With dogs, a couple dogs, yes.
Ms. Albert, she also has a fight history with humans, doesn't she? Ms. Albert, Chloe has injured other humans, hasn't she?
In one incident in May of 22, when she got out and was fighting with another dog, the woman whose dog it was tried to break up the two dogs. And while she was trying to break up the two dogs, she got injured.
Testified that, quote, it started barking because it realized that people were downstairs, end quote, right?
Yes.
Chloe had a penchant for barking when she heard people, correct?
No, not necessarily.
She did that night.
Yeah, I think she wanted to use the bathroom.
Well, that's not what you said in your testimony. You said it started barking because it realized there were people downstairs, right?
Right.
So your German Shepherd, probably a decent guard dog, if she heard commotion and people, she would bark. Obviously, if Chloe hears commotion. emotion and people, she's apt to bark. That's the only question.
No.
So just that night, out of nowhere, first time ever, Chloe starts barking when people walk into the house.
No, it's not the first time ever, but she didn't bark often.
Okay. But she did bark that night, right?
Yes.
And the reason that you gave...
There is no evidence that she hit him with a car. Unfortunately, a hair follicle does not get me to beyond a reasonable doubt.
Your oath for why she started barking was because there were people downstairs milling about, right?
Yes.
So in that instance, on January 29th, in the early morning hours, she was barking because she heard people.
Well, I can't say why she was barking.
Well, you did say why she was barking.
I let her out to use the bathroom, so I think that's probably why.
Except your testimony was it started barking because it realized there were people downstairs. Those are your words, Mr. Albert.
Right. Okay.
Do you stand by those?
Yes.
You ultimately did let Chloe out to go to the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
Then Brian Albert hears Chloe barking. He asks Brian Jr. if he took Chloe out, and Brian Jr. says he forgot. So Chloe, the Albert's German Shepherd mix, has been confined to Brian and Nicole's bedroom upstairs for at least 4 hours at this point. Brian Albert heads upstairs to get Chloe, claims to have walked her down and let her out to go do her business out of the back door in the kitchen area. Brian Albert says she's outside 2 to 3 minutes. He waits by the back door and he monitors Chloe walking around the kitchen. However, Brian Jr. said Big Brian did not wait at the back door.
After my dad came home, it was asked if someone let the dog out. And I said, sorry, I forgot. It was my responsibility because I was the only one home. So he went upstairs to get the dog, got the dog, brought her downstairs, let her outside.
I went upstairs to grab the dog and let her out back to use the bathroom. So the backyard's fenced in, so I would open up the back door and she can go out, use the bathroom, and come back inside. She was out back for maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
I believe it was pretty quick. She went, did her business, and came back in.
Stayed at the doorway, and the dog went to the bathroom and then ran right back in.
Your father wasn't standing by the door staring at Chloe the entire time that she was outside, correct?
No, I wouldn't. Not the whole time, no.
I tend to believe Brian Jr. here. He has no reason to lie. Why wouldn't Brian let Chloe out, go grab a beer, possibly greet Higgins coming in, while giving Chloe more time than just 2 to 3 minutes after being cooped up for so long?
I think she might have walked around the kitchen for a minute or two, and then I think you just brought her back upstairs.
So the dog kind of walked around in the kitchen for a few minutes, and then I took her upstairs.
And then you allowed her to stay downstairs and you monitored her with the others who were in the house. Isn't that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you testified in that state grand jury, the same April grand jury, April of 2022. So I let it go out to the bathroom. I let it back in. I kind of monitored it a little because we usually don't have people over the house and the dog's not great with strangers, period. So I was just making sure that the dog was all right with the people that were over, end quote, correct?
Yes.
So in fact, you did keep Chloe downstairs at least for a period of time with people that were over, right?
Yes, for a few minutes, I think. So after I brought the dog up, I just came back down and hung out with everybody else.
During this interval, John and Jen McCabe exchange texts and calls as both vehicles are making their way to 34 Fairview Road. Julie Nago texts her brother Ryan asking for a ride home. At around 12:18 a.m., Matt and Jen McCabe arrive at 34 Fairview, and they enter through the front door. They join in at the dining room table, and Jen claims that the Bryans were in the family room at this time. Jen claims she doesn't know why, but has a faint memory of the Bryans in the family room looking at pictures. This is a very odd and detailed memory.
So I walked in through the front door. I took her right into the kitchen. And then there were people sitting around the kitchen table, Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, Caitlin Albert. My sister was over more towards like the counters in the sink, and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were, there's like a room right off of the kitchen, like a TV room, and they were in there just talking. I think Nicole had like put up some new pictures, so, or maybe the sun and the Marines, they might have been looking at a picture. Vaguely have a faint memory of that. I'm just trying to answer the questions and be truthful as I can.
Looking at the timeline, and if we are to believe Jen when she said the Bryans were in the family room when she arrived, That would have given Brian Albert around 9 minutes to come in, greet everyone,
now
go
listen
to
to
the
this
bathroom,
timeline.
ask Brian Jr. about Chloe, go upstairs, get Chloe, walk her down, let her out the back door, grab a beer, and go in the family room with Higgins. What I don't think is feasible is the timeline according to Brian Albert. Getting home at 12:10, and remember, Jen places the Bryans in the family room looking at photos, and no mention of Chloe. Let's just say Brian Albert has 10 minutes from arrival to when Jen sees him. Let's deduct the 3 minutes Brian claims Chloe was outside. We are at 7 minutes. So within 7 minutes, could Brian Albert have greeted everyone, gone to the bathroom, talked to Brian Jr. about Chloe, gone upstairs to get Chloe, escort her downstairs, escort her back upstairs, and then go to the family room and be in the process of looking at photos? Oh, wait. Brian Albert claims Chloe walked around in the kitchen for several minutes. So deduct several more minutes from 7 minutes, meaning he did all of what I just mentioned in around 4 minutes. Do you believe that timeline? I don't. So I think Chloe must have still been outside at this point. I don't think Brian Albert was in any hurry to take her back upstairs. I think he walked away from the back door, giving Chloe her own time to do her business and run around. Then he probably got sidetracked in the family room with Brian Higgins, who had entered the house through the breezeway door. This is where you have to pay extremely close attention and hopefully visualize how I suspect things played out. There are so many moving pieces and a very tight timeline. Based on Jen's Apple Watch, her steps match up to her arriving at 34 Fairview at 12:18 and taking 49 steps to enter the home while having a 36-second phone conversation with John O'Keefe. At 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text to John. You coming here?
While I was at the house, I think I shot a text just to John. Where are you? I think that's what it was.
Ryan Nagel has texted Julie that he is there. So we know everyone has been steadily drinking alcohol for hours at this point. It's loud in the house, music playing. Karen and John pull up to 34 Fairview at 12:24:38. I believe John got out at the driveway, and his phone tells us it was moving in a westerly direction toward the house at 12:25. We know John was a fast walker, plus it is freezing, so I think he got into the house quick through the breezeway door.
That right there
Karen
makes a lot of fucking sense. A lot of sense. The fact that it's cold, and he takes, Karen mentioned that he does walk fast, and he's straight in to the breezeway door.
pulled up equal to the front door, so the F-150 is now at the driveway. At 12:27:33, Jen is at the front door seeing Karen's SUV and texting John.
Here, question mark, because that's when I saw the car.
While Nicole is probably cleaning in the kitchen area. Caitlin is in the kitchen area being the DJ. Brian Jr. is watching out the window.
When you go back to listen to their testimonies and they tell you where everyone is supposed to be, they all differ.
No. Sarah is either sitting there with her back to the family room wall, or she could possibly have been in the kitchen or bathroom. Matt is looking out the window. They see the F-150 at the driveway and Karen's SUV parked equal to the front door. Julie goes out to invite Ryan and his friends in and tell him she doesn't need a ride.
Yep.
Most of the attention is directed to the front of the house, outside, with everyone watching Julie in the F-150 and watching the Lexus SUV and wondering why John and Karen are not coming in. The F-150 pulls away from 34 Fairview at 12:29. At 12:30 a.m., Karen leaves 34 Fairview to make it back to One Meadows by 12:36, as we heard on the voicemail. Now that we've established all of the action outside and in the dining kitchen area, let's go through what was happening simultaneously with John and the Bryans. Let's rewind just a bit, right before Karen moves the SUV equal to the front door. During this time, I believe Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were talking in the back corner of the family room and possibly looking at the pictures on the shelves. And this is important because during the first trial, Brian Albert claims they were upstairs in his son's room looking at pictures.
No, I was there basically for the whole night, except I think at one point I may have shown Brian Higgins some photos that were in my son's room that were upstairs. So my son Jack, who's one of the twins, was in the Marines or is in the Marines, and we had put some plaques and some stuff in his room upstairs. And Brian Higgins was prior military, as am I. And I thought he would want to see the photos, so I had him look at them.
And for that period of time that you were outside of sort of the kitchen dining room area looking at the photos with Mr. Higgins, about how long a period of time are we talking?
Very, very quickly, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes.
But in my analysis, that doesn't track. I believe the chaos of that night led to a panic-driven shift in testimony to hide his proximity.
My sister, Nicole, was in the kitchen wiping the counters because she's always cleaning. And Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were in the, I guess you'd call it the TV room area, just standing and talking. My niece, Caitlin, Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, and Brian Jr. were all at the kitchen table. My sister was over, I think, cleaning the counters. And Brian were off in that TV room that you can see from the kitchen because there's a wide opening. You look right to the kitchen, and then through the kitchen's the TV room, but you could look and almost, when you walk in, you can see because it's open. Room, kind of the kitchen opens up into the TV room, so they were in there.
So the only two that you recognized at this point in the night, not being sort of with everybody else, were Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, separated out in the family room, or whatever that room's called, living room?
Yeah, like just right there, right where they are, just kind of right in the next room.
I know at one point my husband and his friend Brian were in our family room. So I kind of went in there and was talking to them. We had some shelves on the wall that just had a bunch of pictures, old pictures from our wedding or when Brian was in the Marine. So we would just kind of look at them, laugh, and talking about them.
At one point, briefly, Brian Albert showed me some photographs, family. I believe primarily it might have been of his son who had recently been in the Marine Corps.
Did you go upstairs at any time?
No. Well, I briefly went and looked at some photos.
Right. So you moved out of that area with Brian Albert alone to go to a different room?
Yes, and I think his wife, Nicole, might have popped in the room for a second, but it was brief.
Now, this period that you're talking about in the other room, about how long a period was that?
It was brief.
And beyond yourself and Mr. Albert, was there anyone else from the group that you described that was in the room at the same time as you and Mr. Albert?
I don't think so. I think Nicole may have popped in for a second, but I'm not 100% positive on that.
For that entirety of the time that you were there, did you go anywhere else within the home beyond what you described as far as the kitchen and the living room?
No.
Everyone that testified about the Bryans looking at pictures placed them in the family room, all except for Brian Albert. Now, I believe the following happened in the blink of an eye. I think John O'Keefe entered through the breezeway door and into the family room with Karen's vodka soda. And the Bryans may not have even noticed his entrance. John probably slid out of his shoes upon entering. That means socks on hardwood floor. It is no secret John's blood alcohol content was extremely high, which definitely would impair balance. And in my opinion, while Brian Albert was caught up in conversation with Higgins, Chloe probably waited at the back door in the kitchen, and when not let in, she came to the glass door to be seen and let in. Brian Albert opens the door to let Chloe in, and I think several forces came to play. One, Chloe had been cooped up for hours and needed to release energy. Two, she had been out in the cold, which can be really invigorating for dogs and cause what many refer to as zoomies. Three, Chloe is not good with strangers and has a history of aggression. Four, Chloe sees John, a tall stranger, in her domain. Dr. Laposada said a medium to large force caused John to fall back at an angle. I believe that force was possibly a 70-pound German Shepherd mix.
He was standing upright, and his body had momentum and went down and hit at the back of his head. So it was thrust backwards. It was a very forceful impact.
So once let in, I think she charged at John full force, attacking his right arm. I think John took a drink of the vodka soda from his right hand. So
this puts the injuries together for me. It puts the glass shard in his nose, and it puts the angle of the bites on his arm 100%. That explains it. Like, it's not proven, but that in my head puts the jigsaw together.
His right arm was bent and moving towards his face. This force could have caused the glass to break on John's brow bone and nose upon impact, which would explain the lacerations to John's face and why Karen found a small shard of glass in John's nose.
Don't forget, he had a skin full of alcohol as well. His blood alcohol level was huge. And if you actually look up the rating, like that particular blood alcohol content and what level of intoxication and symptoms that you would be getting, it states that you would have slurred speech, impaired balance, and possibly staggering. Now, he's a big boy, so he may not have been displaying all of those, but he was definitely impaired. So that would affect his balance as well.
Was the laceration above his eyelid on the right side a separate injury altogether?
Yes, it was.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not what that eyelid laceration might be consistent with?
Some application of force which broke the skin. It was fairly small. Could be it's some sort of object. You have to look at the whole picture to understand what happened to the body. Correct, because when an animal approaches the body, there may be damage from the claws and also from the mouth.
Were you able to determine from your review of the medical records whether the injuries that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm were pre-mortem or post-mortem?
They were, oh yes, I can determine that. They were inflicted prior to death.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the wounds that you see, the patterned injury that you see on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm is consistent with an animal bite or claw marks?
Yes, it is, very much.
Those wounds were inflicted as a result of a dog attack.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
They were inflicted as a result of a dog attack. Well, there are multiple groupings of wounds. These multiple groupings are patterns. And they are, in my opinion, were inflicted by the teeth and claws of a dog. I characterize them as highly specific for a dog attack.
Well, he landed on something that had a ridge on it to cause the laceration in the scalp, and then they kind of look like pencil marks. And so that means that something with granularity he hit first, and it moved up a little, broke the scalp, and then moved on a little bit above that. And with a little bit of movement, those vertical scratches were caused by some kind of like pebbly-like surface. And then it's the job of the police then to go back to the scene and look around for something which might fit that pattern.
I'm going to bring up that. I just got a better copy of it. So, just 1 second. Nope. Okay. This one. Graphic content. Okay. See this is probably better to see the little marks above the actual wound. So you can see this abrasion where it's hit and then it's dragged until it's come to rest along here with the little dots at the top there. Okay. Now, let's go back to La Passata.
He died of brain injuries and skull fractures due to blunt force trauma of the head. An injury caused by the angular acceleration going down and hitting his head in the back.
You can't tell us objectively when his brain swell started.
It started immediately after impact. So what that tells me is that the back of his head hit something that had a fine granular pattern to it to cause those individual little marks. And then also something that had a linear or ridged pattern that he went back on that broke the scalp there. So we have two parts really to this pattern injury, that whatever he hit had some little like granularity to it, with each little sort of granule making those vertical marks, and then the ridged pattern having the major point of impact.
This brick hearth could easily be the surface that caused the fatal coup contre coup injury. This sudden, brutal interaction would have caused John O'Keefe to fall, striking his head on the unforgiving, hard brick granular edge of the hearth. A fatal impact. This sequence of events precisely explains the dog bite injuries found on John's right arm, the lacerations on John's face, and the blunt force trauma to his head, entirely consistent with a fall onto this type of surface. The fatal coup contre coup injury would have caused the ecchymosis, or raccoon eyes, as we saw in the autopsy photos. According to Dr. La Posada, the blow to the head would instantly knock John out, and he likely died within 15 minutes.
First, there would be immediate unconsciousness because of the transfer of all the energy to the brain and the massive skull fractures. So you go unconscious, brain swells, then you die.
Brian Higgins, an Army medic, would have known the severity of the injury.
Yep.
Brian Albert was allegedly faced with an unconscious dying man and a dog with a criminal past right on his family room floor. And they absolutely knew, if John was found inside that house with those injuries, what would happen. No one in the noisy kitchen and dining area hears it. Music blares, attention is drawn outside, loud voices singing and laughing masks the tragedy unfolding feet away. Chaos becomes cover. The clock was ticking. Jen calls John at 12:29. The log says the phone was answered and the call lasted 7 to 8 seconds. Jen deleted this call.
12:29 and 44 seconds. There was a call from you to John O'Keefe's phone lasting 7 seconds, correct?
That's what it says.
And the record indicates that it was an answered phone call, correct?
According to the record, it was answered, but I never spoke to him.
You deny speaking to John O'Keefe at 12:29 and 44 seconds.
Yes, I never spoke to him after 12:18.
Did one of the Bryans answer? And within that 7 seconds, maybe they told Jen to keep everyone in the kitchen or some type of similar message. Two intoxicated men, fearing the law, made horrific, life-changing decisions within seconds. With John O'Keefe dying near their hearth, a desperate panic seized Brian Albert had to make fast decisions. His home, his career, his entire life were on the line. He knew he had to act, and he had to act fast. The glass doors of the family room provided a direct escape route to the backyard.
Now this bit, I've got a better theory, but we'll go with it.
Brian possibly grabbed John and, in a frenzy of adrenaline and fear, dragged his body out of the house.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 paces.
At 12:31:56, John's phone records the start of 36 steps. I think Brian Albert had John's phone in his hand. At 12:32:04, John's phone is unlocked by Face ID. Could that have happened while Brian was holding the phone and dragging, and the phone captured John's face? The phone is locked, and the 36 steps that covered 84 feet ends at 12:32:16, along with no more steps or movement. Now we have to remember, they did not know Karen was pissed off, left, and was not coming back. So they would have expected Karen to show up at any moment to join John, or expected her to show up possibly within an hour or so to pick him up. So they had to move extremely fast. My best guess is Brian Albert chose this destination, a temporary, highly concealed spot in the corner, formed by the back wall of the house and the fence. This was no random placement. It offered critical advantages, plausible deniability, painting a false narrative of a drunken man wandering off, falling and hitting his head. If John was propped up in a sitting position, like we theorized in the first video of this series, this position would also make it look like he might still be alive if someone saw him. With John hidden, Brian Albert sprinted back inside, leaving Higgins.
That semi-upright position too would also account for the vomit on his pants and undies. Well, it wasn't on his top.
To guard the family room entrance. The frantic cleanup had begun. Let's go to sidebar real quick. You might be saying, if it was an accident like this, why didn't they just call 911? The Massachusetts dog attack law is extremely strict and unforgiving. Brian Albert would have known this law. If Chloe attacked John, the homeowners and dog owners, Brian Albert, along with Nicole Albert, would face devastating lawsuits, total financial ruin, and even criminal charges. And under Massachusetts liability statutes, the owner of a dog causing injury or death is often presumed responsible, even if the accident was unpredictable. Chloe had a documented past. Based on her history and her breed, I'm willing to bet homeowners insurance would not cover this tragedy. The chilling truth is Chloe was a known danger. In 2019, she had already viciously attacked another dog, so brutally that the victim's vet confirmed Chloe was trying to kill the other dog. This forced the Alberts to officially register her in Canton, a record Brian's brother, Kevin, reportedly tried to make go away. This wasn't just the dog acting out. This was a pattern of extreme aggression, a ticking time bomb that Alberts were desperate to conceal. And their desperation reached its peak when just months after John's death, Chloe struck again, attacking another dog and injuring people. As public questions about Chloe's role in John's death began to swirl, the Alberts quickly rehomed her, a term they defensively used on.
I did not get rid of my dog. I rehomed my dog.
Mr. Albert, after you learned that there were questions being raised about John's injuries and dog bites and scratches, in May of 2022, you got rid of that dog, did you not? At some point, your family got rid of Chloe.
Chloe was rehomed in May
We can use
2024.
whatever words we want to. Rehomed, rehoused, whatever. But you got rid of her. She's no longer part of the Albert family, right?
Right.
When did you get rid of her?
So Chloe was rehomed in, I believe, May
Of 2022,
of 2022.
just months after the incident that we're discussing.
Well, after it was involved, she was involved in a dog fight with another dog out front.
Right, but that's also after the incident that
Yes.
we're discussing.
Yes, May.
That's a family pet that you had for 6 years or 7 years.
Approximately 6 or 7 years. Not
And your
sure.
explanation just now for having gotten rid of that dog is because it bit another dog and ultimately sent 2 women to the hospital, correct?
I believe 2 women went to the hospital. Yes.
But you took no action to get rid of Chloe until after you knew that serious questions were being raised about John O'Keefe's. At some point, you did realize there were questions being raised about John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm, correct?
Objection.
You allow that. Did you realize that?
I heard some talk about it. Yes.
As of January of 2022, John O'Keefe had never been in your house, had he?
John O'Keefe was never in my house before or after that date.
Certainly, John O'Keefe, you would agree with me, he would count, were he in your house, he would count as a stranger to Chloe.
Really? You have a badge? I see a wrench still. Can you take a screenshot of that for me, T, and send it on WhatsApp? That's bizarre. I just looked at that.
Never met him.
Hypothetically, yes.
Brian Albert himself lied to the grand jury, falsely claiming Chloe had no aggressive history. This pattern of violence, active concealment, and outright perjury provides an undeniable, chilling motive for the elaborate cover-up. A drunken accident, a dog bite, a fall, whatever it was, they knew the liability, the negligence, and everything at stake. So they panicked. Brian Higgins was not the homeowner or dog owner, so he could have walked away. His problem was impaired thinking and believing that Brian Albert was a very close friend. Brian Albert probably rationalized to a drunk Higgins that he would protect him if this happened on Higgins' property. It is possible in this scenario that Higgins felt a responsibility since he was the one urging John to come to the Alberts. Brian Albert could have guilted Higgins too, so Higgins chose to protect Brian Albert. I would be willing to bet this decision haunts Higgins every single day. With John hidden outside and the other guests oblivious, I feel like this might be the time Nicole went into the family room. They tell her and she goes into a cleaning room.
I think when I was in the other room with my husband and his friend, I had missed the conversations about Jennifer reaching out with John or her texting him and him texting her about where we lived.
It is like a shield almost. But yeah, it certainly is definitely a wrench on this side. That's bizarre. Thanks for doing that.
I didn't even realize that that was happening, that they had any intention to come. We stood in there for a little bit talking, and then eventually we just moved into the kitchen area where everybody else was.
But when you were asked where your husband and Brian Higgins were positioned at the table, you weren't able to place them there. Isn't that true?
Because I don't believe they ever sat at that table.
At least at one point, they had left the room and they were outside of your view, correct?
I'm not sure I said that.
Told the jury that you were cleaning and you weren't sure where they went, correct?
Well, initially when I first came in the house and I was doing my thing, I don't remember exactly where
And
they were.
they told the grand jury that you don't recall seeing them at the table, but you don't recall where they went because you were kind of focused on cleaning, correct?
Right.
And there was one point at which you said that you joined them in family.
Yes.
Is that right? But while you were cleaning, you said, I don't really know what they were doing, but they weren't there, correct?
Yes.
So you recall your husband and Brian Higgins left your view and went to some other place in the house that evening, correct?
They could have.
So I would have had my back to that area, my back to the door that I came in.
Higgins testified he stood in the doorway of the dining area and family room with his back to the family room. This would be to block people from going into that room. Others said the Bryans were in that doorway area talking to each other. I would assume they were feeling desperate and concocting an alcohol-induced plan because they had no idea when Karen would be there. A few things to think about. Now, this is the time Higgins claims he left 34 Fairview, despite everyone else saying he left at 1:30.
I'd guesstimate it was anywhere between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, but I'm not 100% positive.
I think Brian left at around 1:30. I believe he was the first to leave.
I believe Brian Higgins left first, approximately 1:30-ish.
It was a short period of time. I knew kind of from the onset when I got in there, it probably wasn't going to be a long time because I'm not a beer drinker and that's what they had. So I was probably one of the first people to leave.
And when you exited the home, you recall which of the two doors that you described that you would have exited from?
The same door I came in, the breezeway.
I think more than likely he was there until he arrived at Canton PD at 1:27 a.m. The footage from the Canton PD has been very puzzling. Why did Higgins go there? If this theory of what happened to Officer John O'Keefe is correct, maybe Higgins went there to purposely be seen on camera.
Now, what I think, just putting it out there. So, if what happened, what she says went down in the living room, let's backstep a bit. So, throughout the both trials, there was no CCTV footage at all from 34 Fairview Road. Now, tell me a cop that doesn't have CCTV footage for a start. And secondly, we know there were cameras there because there was a recording of Jennifer Coffindaffer going to the house to have a sticky nose, and she got caught on the breezeway door CCTV footage. So I'm thinking maybe, given that he is a police officer and, oh, sorry, Brian Albert was a police officer and he did have CCTV footage, and Canton was the closest station. Is there such a thing as, this is only just like popped into my head, is there such a thing that some the police stations can hook in to the homes of officers via their CCTV footage? Because if that's the case, that would explain why Brian Higgins went to Canton PD to disconnect that feed. I'm just making it up as I go along, pulling it out of my ass. But it's something I might have to go down a rabbit hole on. Could be a possibility. You never know.
And do some type of work or administrative duties, hoping he could protect himself with qualified immunity, which is a legal doctrine that would protect Higgins from civil liability due to his job as a federal ATF agent. For this theory to be true, Julie Nagle would have to have gone out and in through the main front door.
Yeah, she saw him. Guaranteed. She saw him. And she's the only one that saw him come in.
She and John probably would have crossed paths had she gone through the breezeway door.
Recall which of the two front doors you used to go outside?
I use the front door.
Front door is the one.
Why
with the
would you do that? Why? Why would you go all the way around? Oh, actually, no. Okay, let me go back to that map. Where was the map? Let's get the time stamp on this so I go back to the right spot. 47. Remember 47. Where's the map? Overhead map of the house. Oh. Clear it up. Come on. Oh. That one? Oh. My fingers. Come on, show me overhead map. Come on. Yeah, right. Oh. Okay. Oh, let me take that shit off. Okay, so if he's coming in the breezeway door here, you can't see my. Now you can see my mouse. There we go. That's the breezeway door, and this is the living room. That's the doorway into the dining area where the dining table is down here where Brian Albert Jr. is sitting. And then this is the kitchen area at the top where Nicole is cleaning frantically. And that was where Julie Nagle was sitting. So she could have gone to the left here where the front door is or to the right here. But if John has run to the breezeway door as she's coming out the front door, there is that wall here in the middle where the porch is. She may not have seen him. It could happen. He's going in that way. She's coming out that way. And she was paying attention to what's in front of her at her brother's car. She might have seen him. 47.
For this theory to be true, Julie Nagle would have to have gone out and in through the main front door. She and John probably would have crossed paths had she gone through the breezeway door.
Recall which of the two front doors you used to go outside?
I use the front door.
Front door is the one with the brick steps, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
You come down the brick steps, go down the walkway. Do you recall how you came down to where your brother was?
I walked down the steps through the little path
and then down the driveway, and they were parked right in front of the driveway.
However, Matt McCabe and Nicole Albert made a point to say Julie went through the breezeway door. I think that is an odd detail to bring attention to, unless there is something more to it. And in this case, it would be critical that Julie went through the breezeway door so she would have seen John.
If you're looking at the house, your front door, windows, and then there's another door, Julie looked out or went out through that door. I either looked at that point, either looked out the window or walked over to the front door, which would be the opposite door. There's a room right next to the kitchen with the doorway that you can walk through. I was seated at the table, but you could walk through the doorway. You know, I know Julie Nagel went into that room because she was looking out the door. Other people could have walked in and out of that room. It's right there, right next to us.
I was only aware at one point I saw my son, I think, either looking out the window or at the door, and his friend Julie, maybe she went out the side door, and I said, to Brian, is Julie leaving?
Remember Jen wanting a screenshot of Ryan's text to Julie? Based upon this theory, I think this text was very important for Jen to obtain because it gave her the exact time when John would have been inside the house. And
all this when you asked her for that screenshot.
I was trying to piece together.
You knew all this when you asked for the screenshot. You knew what her position was in this case, correct?
She had no involvement. What happened outside
I didn't ask
is
you if she had
different.
involvement.
Let her finish her answer.
Go ahead.
I didn't. What happened outside was separate from anything that happened inside.
I'm going to ask you again. You knew all of that information, that Julie Nagel was a recipient witness in this case, as was everyone else inside 34 Fairview, when you asked for that screenshot, correct?
Yes.
That is another example of you coordinating information with other witnesses in this case, correct?
No, that is not correct.
Using the phone within my house, it seemed like it was it's a slang term, the dead zone for the phone. The reception wasn't great.
The phone log showed John's device went from a normal inside temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit at 12:37 a.m. to 50 degrees at 1:36 a.m. Yet the phone logged 0 steps. The thermal data shows a sustained cooling from 12:37 a.m. down to 1:36 a.m. This rate seems more consistent with a phone remaining on the body, insulated by its heat and protected by the physical shelter of the house wall and fence. Even the phone under John's shoulder, like the prosecution stated, it would still be heavily exposed to the freezing ground environment, and I would expect a much faster cooling rate. I wonder why there is no data from 136 to 606. Probably the same reason there was no ring footage from the Alberts or from the officer that lives across the street. No CCTV footage at the library the exact time Karen drove by. No ring footage from John's house when Karen pulled in. No CCTV footage of the Sallyport the exact times the taillight would have been smashed. This gap makes me wonder if the data was problematic for a certain narrative. When the official narrative relies on the complete failure of every surveillance system at the most critical moments and the convenient loss of the most incriminating digital data, the only logical question is, how many impossible coincidences must occur before we acknowledge deliberate corruption? And how stupid do they think people really are? With John O'Keefe's body still hidden on their property, Karen Reed nowhere in sight, and knowing at some point Chloe would need to be let out again, but cannot be let out with John in the backyard, a new plan needed to emerge. At 2:22:35 a.m., Brian Albert called Brian Higgins for a single telling second, possibly a ping of urgent distress. At 2:22:52 a.m., Higgins called Albert back for 22 seconds. Just minutes later, at 2:25 a.m., Jen McCabe sent 2 outgoing texts to an unknown recipient. At 2:26:37 a.m., Jen McCabe deleted 2 screenshots from her phone. And at 2:27 a.m., her highly debated Google search, "Hoes long to die in cold," a new desperate plan emerged to move John and stage his body by the roadside, diverting blame entirely. At 2:30 a.m., Lucky and Frankentruck passed by, confirming the street was clear, a perfect, unsuspecting moment. A crucial witness, Lucky, drove by again around 3:30 a.m., this time seeing a Ford Edge parked on the street by the flagpole, but critically, not seeing John's body.
But, he went by that property and there was no body there at 2:30 in the morning. And if there was no body there at 2:30 in the morning, the case is over.
I think the Ford Edge was parked specifically to block the view from the street. It would create a visual barrier, a shield, so Brian could move John's body without being seen. Immediately after Lucky passed at 3:30 a.m., the coast would be clear, and Brian Albert could execute the final gruesome act. In my opinion, he dragged John O'Keefe's body from its concealed spot to the flagpole. This movement explains the forensic evidence, the upward angular bloodstains on John's clothes, consistent with an upright drag, and the irrefutable grass stains on the butt of John's jeans, proving contact with the ground, not just snow. Brian then swiftly pulled his Edge back into the driveway. The continued snowfall that night acted as nature's accomplice, covering any drag marks, footprints, and erasing the physical evidence of his crime. Their goal was simple. Tell one little lie. John never came inside. Hope the injuries and location look like an accident. Maybe a hit and run, or maybe a snowplow hit him. Just unfortunate. Tragic. Case closed.
If I did,
I didn't
I
ask
would
you
have
if
done
you
something
did.
to help him.
I asked you if you saw one.
No, I did not.
No one knew what happened. John never came in the house. None of us in the house had any idea what happened to John O'Keefe. So we instructed, I was saying, we don't know what happened. He never came in the house.
All right, so,
That's what was my statement was.
sir, I didn't ask you for any of that just now, did I?
No, they never came into my home.
And
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in. And I wish they had. I really do.
Until the next morning, when Karen Reed, John's girlfriend, panicked and cracked her taillight backing up. At this moment, Jen McCabe saw an opportunity. The investigation shifted away from the house, away from the dog, away from the hearth. All eyes on Karen. Justice for John means demanding the full truth. It means holding everyone involved, everyone accountable for what happened that night and what they did after. This case isn't over just because one person was acquitted. If anything, it's just beginning. Keep talking about this. Don't let this story disappear, because John O'Keefe deserves more than a cover-up. He deserves the truth.
He does.
It's a possibility that
Absolutely.
this Lexus could have been shot up into space.
Highly, highly unlikely. But
Right.
again, you're asking an engineer about possibilities and probabilities.
Let's get back to reality.
Did an investigator or any forensics team ever come into your house, ever, to photograph your entire home?
No, I wish they had.
Did an investigator, yeah, me too. Physically attractive,
I thought she was an attractive woman.
romantically attractive.
I'm not going to go there. No, I don't agree with that.
Of course, you're not going to go there because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it, sir?
Objection.
What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket
Bullshit.
items? The real
Bullshit.
deal is what?
Right, so that theory then, for me, it explains how John got to the house without anyone seeing him because he went through the breezeway door. Okay? It explains the injuries to his face. It explains the injury to the back of his head. It explains the injuries present on his arm. I don't agree with the whole dragging him out and sitting him upright out the back somewhere, maybe a bit later, but not initially. I think they actually tried to resuscitate him. And I'll show you why. And don't forget, both of the Bryans were medics in the Army or the Marine Corps. And there was a nurse in there as well, Sarah Levinson. So they would have had not just your basic first aid kit, they would have had a fairly decent one. Oh, excuse me. All right. Now, this is John's right hand. You zoom that in a bit. Oh, okay. Now, unless he was bitten by a snake on his way out, they are puncture wounds for IV access. Now, I initially put that down to the first responders trying to gain IV access, but then it dawned on me. He's been out in the cold. He's suffering from hypothermia. He's buried in snow. No first responder in their right mind would go to the furthest part on an extremity to try and access an IV line when we all know that the body constricts its blood flow to the vital organs when it's cold. So it wouldn't happen. Wouldn't happen. Unless you're an absolute dipshit, it would not happen. So, and this shows that it was done before he died. Why? Because his heart was still beating and it produced a bruise. You don't produce a bruise if it's done post-mortem. Simple. And no one has even focused on this at all. So whilst she's saying that, you know, maybe Chloe jumped up on him and knocked him back and hit his head on the half, that would have created a massive blood loss, especially with the alcohol that he'd consumed. But I also don't think that the way that that's explained is that no one in the kitchen noticed. No. I think at least, well, Nicole would have noticed and Jen McCabe at the very least. And I believe they all knew, basically, and they were all watching them try and resuscitate him and then had to give up. But yes, paramedics do stupid shit. See the test? Yes, I did. I watched it all. Every little last bit of it, and I analysed it all. But yes, that's yeah. And any damage, other damage that they would have done, like if they'd, you know, cracked his ribs or done anything like that, they could have put that down to the half hour or the hour, I think it was. He was on the Lucas machine, which is brutal. So what else does it explain? It explains why Ryan Nagel didn't see him in the car. But it was the main thing for me was the glass. Like, that makes so much sense. Him holding the glass to take a sip when the dog attacks him, because the actual bite marks are on the angle on that right arm. So yeah, it ticks 99% of the boxes. But everyone keeps saying that he didn't go in the house. All right, this is where Sam comes in. Let's go and see what Sam has to say. So she basically has done a 3-part series on why she believes that John went into the house and how she figured it out. I'm not going to play all of them. I'm going to play like the half of the last one, her conclusions, basically, because she does recap a little bit. But basically, she starts off with showing clips of witnesses that have no dog in the fight and how they answer the questions. And then she shows the testimonies of all of the people in the kitchen, and analyzes their body language, their vocabulary, their behavior, and there's testimonies as well. So we're going to finish off here with Brian Jr. And then I think she's going to go into Julie Nagel. So let's pick up where she left off.
All right.
Okay, so now we're going to turn our attention to his buddies, Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson. So let's start with Julie and hear what Julie has to say.
Yeah.
And once again, I remind you, keep in the back of your mind the
when they dragged him out the back, she could have grabbed hold of his arm then. Who knows? But it was before he died.
earlier witnesses that we saw and the ways that they answered questions from the prosecutor. And guys, this is all happening on direct.
Yes.
We are not talking about cross-examination. There should be no...
That's the interesting part of this. The bits that she's extracted of their testimony was while Adam Lally was questioning his own witnesses. Okay? So no pressure. No pressure at all. Not cross-examination, all direct.
No difficulties here. These are softballs. This is the easy stuff. Right. We are going to pick up Julie Nagel's testimony on direct, where she recounts her memory of her time at Brian Albert Jr.'s house. This is to hopefully verify what Brian Albert Jr. has to say.
I'm not sure exactly, but I would say probably around like 6.
And do you recall what day of the week that was, the 28th and then the 29th?
I believe a Friday.
So right away, note her body language, note how she is holding her mouth.
For Friday and Saturday, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get?
Yes.
How did you get to Mr. Albert Jr.'s house?
My dad drove me.
And who, if anyone else, did your dad give a ride to?
My friend Sarah Levinson.
How long have you known Sarah Levinson?
Since middle school, I would say.
And you're familiar with Mr. Albert Jr.'s house at 34 Fairview Road?
Correct, yes.
And have you been there on occasion over the course of your friendship?
Yes.
Now, what was, as far as your understanding, what was sort of the plan for that evening?
Just hang out, have some drinks for my friend Brian's birthday, just together and hang out.
And when you arrived there, who, if anyone...
The other thing that Sam points out beautifully too is the sensitivities around Colin Albert being there. Because their story is that he popped around to hang around with his cousin and Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, and the other 2 or 3 girls that were there for his birthday. She said, can you actually imagine Colin Albert hanging out with that group? Just and I'm like, you got a fucking point there.
In addition to yourself, Ms. Levinson and Brian Albert Jr. were present at home death.
From what I can recall, I just remember Brian Jr. Yep.
Yeah, so you'll note that when Julie lies, she actually has a really strong deception.
She she confirms herself. So at the end of a lie, she'll nod and often go, let's just go back and have a look at that. Watch.
I just remember Brian Jr. Yep.
Couple of nods.
Yeah, so you'll note that when Julie lies, she actually has a really strong deception tag.
Lied about my age and joined the army. I was 13 at the time. Yeah, I went to Vietnam and I was injured catching a mortar shell in my teeth. Yeah, that's a ticket.
So she tells a lie, which is right now she's saying, I don't remember who else was there. The only thing I remember, all I remember about that night was my friend Brian. That's all I remember, which is absolutely not true. Of course, that's not true. And after she says it, she goes, yep, that's the truth. Yep. It's hilarious.
And at some point, did some other people come in and join the group of the 3 of you at the home?
Yes.
And when about was that in relation to when you and Sarah arrived?
I can't remember. I don't recall the time frame.
So she's been coached. Mm-hmm. She's been coached on not remembering the time.
And do you recall about what time it was that you went out?
I do not remember.
Unfortunately, I can't remember an exact time, but it would have been around like dinner time. So if I had to guess, maybe like 6. I can't say for sure like times of people arriving or order of people arriving. So at one point in time, I'm not sure the order of which, everybody came in or the time that they came in, but I can't say for sure. I'm not sure time. Again, I'm the worst with times, but
I don't remember the time.
Was it wildly different than 1:45 in the morning, or was it somewhat close to that?
I'm not going to make up a time. I don't remember.
Was it 9 p.m. on the 28th?
I don't remember times.
So if I asked you if you were there to pick up
No,
your girlfriend
I won't
Caitlin
answer that.
at 9 p.m. on January 28th, you couldn't say if that's true or false?
No, because I'm not making up the time.
Okay, so it could have been 9.
How did you go to work, sir? I don't know. I'm not good with times. Did you set your alarm? I don't know. I can't tell the time. Fucking.
p.m. that you were there, not 1:45 in the morning.
I didn't say that.
Well, you've just said that you can't rule out that it was actually 9 p.m. on the 28th, didn't you?
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you answer that? Did you say that?
I didn't say anything. I don't remember the time.
So I understand.
So I'm not going to make up the time.
Hold on. Only one person can speak at a time.
I don't, it could have been later, it could have been early. I don't know the time.
Right, but it couldn't have been 9 p.m. on January 28th. Could it have been?
I don't know.
Okay. What time were you at the waterfall?
I don't remember.
Were you at the waterfall?
Yes, I was.
On what?
One look at you, and I know that you are an idiot.
Hey,
The 28th.
was it in the morning?
It was at nighttime.
Okay. What time did you leave the waterfall?
I don't remember.
Did you leave at 5 p.m.?
What's your girlfriend's
I don't
name?
remember.
Don't remember.
It could have been 5 p.m.
Could have been 5 in the morning. I don't know.
Sometime after that?
Yes, yep.
Who was it that came to join the group at some point?
It was me, Brian Jr., Sarah Levinson, Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary Kent, Courtney Elba, Colin Albert, and then that's what I can remember from then in the early part of the night.
Okay. Now, remember what I said about listing. And so you see how she tries to act like Colin Albert was just a natural part of her memory of that night, but he wasn't.
Simi, have you seen the 3 videos? Or Tricia, but either of you, have you seen the 3 videos in this? They are, like, if you watch them consecutively on Sam's channel, you can't see her bloody name up the top there, sorry. Their channels are in the description box, but this is Sam from I Don't Belong Here. They're a 3-part series on how she came to this conclusion, and she stumbled across it. They're amazing to watch in, like, real time, how she gets there.
It's so obvious.
It was me, Brian Jr., Sarah Levinson, Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary Kent, Courtney Elba, Colin Albert.
That's an advanced stage.
And then that's what I can remember from then in the early part of the night.
She's adding him after the fact. And she tried to bury it by making him last. Emily Fabiano and this whole group, Brian Jr. tells us Colin Albert is there with them for 10 minutes.
They were only there for a few minutes while Colin was there. So I would say probably around 11:10.
And funny enough, one of the few time periods that Colin Albert is willing to give us verifies what his cousin is saying. Oh, you can't make this stuff up.
And do you recall about what time it was that you arrived at the house on Fairview?
Between 10:30 and 11 at night.
But Julie thinks that her directive is to bump Colin up to the earlier part of the night. So she adds him in after the fact and then does that same thing where she kind of, after she tells a lie, verifies it to herself. Watch. It's just amazing, these people. It's just disgusting. See how she shakes her head? Like, yep, that's the truth. And then it's hard to lie. So then she has a physical reaction. She has to clear her throat.
Colin Albert. And then that's what I can remember from then in the early part of the night.
See how she verifies the lie with she shakes her head like, yep, that's the ticket. Yep, that's the truth. And then all of her mucous membranes dry up and she has to clear her throat.
Now, with reference to, you mentioned Colin, correct? And how do you know?
On the they have to be yes or no.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah, I don't like being reprimanded by the teacher, right? Watch her mouth.
What was that answer?
Do you mind repeating the question? Thank you.
So with reference to Colin Albert, did you know Colin Albert prior to that evening as well?
Yes.
And how did you know Colin?
through Brian Jr.
And what, if anything, did you know about the relationship between Colin Albert and Brian Albert?
They're cousins.
And about how old was Colin Albert around this time frame of January 28, 2022?
I'm not quite sure. I don't know.
So interesting, right? She really didn't know.
Yeah.
And you can see so clearly when she doesn't know. Right? Because that was her listening intently to the question, using her brain to try to remember the answer, and then going, yeah, I don't know how old Colin is. Now remember, Brian Jr. is turning 23, Colin is 17. He's much younger than them. Especially at this time, that's a pretty big difference. That's what, 5 years in school, probably about?
And when was it that he arrived in relation to the four young ladies that you were talking about?
I don't remember. A little bit after, though.
Okay, so some point in time after they arrived.
Yes.
And they arrived after you, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
So when Colin arrives is very sensitive. There's something she doesn't want us to know. She's not going to tell us. Watch her mouth. But she knows that her directive is to bump Colin up to the earlier part of the night, despite the fact that we already know from Brian Albert Jr., in the very limited time that he was telling us anything that's true, he told us Colin's only there for about 10 minutes while they are there.
And over the course of the evening within the Albert house, where is it sort of within the home that you and sort of the group were congregating?
All right, important question, guys. Where is it in the home that you and everybody are hanging out?
And over the course of the evening within the Albert house, where is it sort of within the home that you and sort of the group were congregating?
We were mostly in the dining room area with the kitchen. It's like an open floor plan a little bit.
All right, so here we have mostly, like, a little bit,
distancing,
and too much information that is not being asked. He didn't ask about the floor plan. So we have reductions of commitment. We have multiple reductions of commitment. And we're getting information that is being added as filler to try to ease her lying. We also have her standard deception tag of confirming the lie after the fact.
We were mostly in the dining room area with the kitchen. It's like an open floor plan a little bit.
She wants us to believe that they are in the kitchen, but it's not true.
Do you recall sort of where in the house you were hanging out, or what you were doing?
We were in the family room and in the kitchen as well.
And where within your house was everybody else sort of situated?
So everybody was in the kitchen, and then we have a connecting dining room, but it's opened. It's only, a difference of 5 feet. And then we have the family room den that's adjacent to the kitchen.
He can't leave it at people are in the kitchen. He has to start telling us about the family room. Now, why, I ask you, mention the family room if everybody's in the kitchen?
But they're all close proximity.
Remember our earlier witnesses. They were asked a question and then they gave an answer. The question here, where's everybody hanging out? And listen to this answer. One more thing. We already know that so, beginning a sentence with the word so, is a deception tag for Brian Albert. I'm going to ask that you trust me on it, but we have already established it. It would take me too long to try to prove it to you here now, and we're already 2 hours in. And I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but boy, is this important testimony. Again, it is hard to lie. And you see all of these people evidencing the same patterns, using the same language, just and mostly reducing commitment all over the place, giving us a ton of extra information, actually, and so, and repeating pronouns and using the wrong tense. It's everywhere. It's all over these people's testimonies, up and down.
And where within your house was everybody else sort of situated?
So everybody was in the kitchen, and then we have a connecting dining room, but it's opened. It's only, a difference of 5 feet. And then we have the family room den that's adjacent to the kitchen. But they're all close proximity.
So the kitchen and the dining room are sort of the same room, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as what if anything is between the kitchen and dining room and the living room that you're talking about?
So there's a wall, but there's a doorway. So there's really no barrier to go from the kitchen dining room into the family room.
There's not really any significant barrier between the dining room and the family room. I mean, just this very significant wall, you know, that takes up the whole length of the kitchen and the family
I'm just
room,
writing that
it's not
down now.
really that significant.
So somebody standing in the family room and somebody standing.
I've just written down, analyze the testimonies that have identical phrases and list the witness's name and locations. I said, you know.
In the kitchen dining area, they can sort of see each other.
Yes.
Do you recall what specifically, or just generally speaking, what you were doing while you were hanging out and celebrating Brian Jr.'s birthday?
We got some food ordered from Dini. Just hanging out, drinking. That was it.
You saw the one-sided shoulder shrug. Mostly, that was it. So they did do that. Mostly that was it. And she's saying that was it. I don't want to tell you anything else about what we did. This is all I'm going to tell you about what happened that night.
Do you recall any music playing or anything like that?
Yes.
And how was that sort of set up, or what was it?
Yeah, I can mostly remember it being set up from the overhead speakers in the kitchen,
All right. So I think I'm starting to put this together. It's taken me a while, I admit. But she really wants us to believe that there's music playing overhead in that kitchen dining room area. You have to ask yourself why. Why is it so important to tell us that there's music playing? So she was waiting for this question. That's something that she knows she's supposed to say. This was rehearsed.
In the ceiling.
And would that be
So that's absolutely deception. She's absolutely lying.
played through somebody else's phone or device or something like that?
Yes.
And do you recall who was sort of in control or who was controlling the music?
I believe it was Caitlin.
We were just kind of hanging out. I remember that my mom had grabbed a small speaker and put some music on. We had a couple drinks and everyone was just kind of having a good time, hanging out.
There may have been. I'm not sure if there was music playing at that time, but there might have been.
When you say at that time, was there anything that happened later on?
Well, later on, I remember that we had music connected to a little speaker that we were playing. Yeah, but when I first walked in, I don't remember if they had music going or not.
How would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor of the group in the house when you got here?
Everybody was hanging out. I know Julie was excited. We just showed up. Everybody was hanging out. I know Julie was excited. We just showed up. Good to see us. Brian, excited that we came by. Normal. Hanging out, talking, enjoying each other's company. I do recall my wife put on a foolish video that she wanted to show the kids at the table.
Yeah, I think people were just sitting around, having drinks. Someone had a speaker and they were listening to music and just talking and hanging out.
Good. Everybody was in a good mood. There was no Brian and Brian were talking. My sister was cleaning. I was talking with the kids. Just a normal night.
And would that be
So that's absolutely deception. She's absolutely lying.
played through somebody else's phone or device or something like that?
Yes.
And do you recall who was sort of in control or who was controlling the music?
I believe it was Caitlin Albert.
So here she slips up. She's trying to tell us that there's music playing, right? There's music playing and they're just ordering food from D&E. So you see how she's not actually remembering back through the sequence of events the way that Adam Lally is trying to get her mind to. And if this is a real witness, that's what these lawyers are doing. They're walking them through step by step what happened at each stage of the night. She jumped, 2 hours, 3 hours ahead by bringing back in Caitlin, who's allegedly not there until 12:10. And because we actually do see her very much so on the waterfall video, we see Chris Albert giving her a hug goodbye as she walks out at the same time that Nicole, Brian, and Brian Higgins do. We know she's not back at this house until 12:10. So she's telling us that there's music playing in the, quote, dining room area where they're hanging out all night, and then slips up and tells us that Caitlin is the one playing it. Well, Caitlin's not there. So she's conflating these different experiences, which means she's misrepresenting reality, which means this is deceptive.
And so prior to, at this point in time that you're talking about, sort of the initial was Caitlin there at that point?
Yes, she was.
Yep. So now she sees.
He wasn't beat up, darling. those injuries to his face are not consistent with AVID. They are purely caused from the pressure in his brain and the head injury. Absolutely nothing to do at all whatsoever with a punch. Nothing.
Oh, I screwed up, right? And look at her. What is she doing? She's rubbing on her leg. Up, I messed up. Whoops.
During the point in time when it was
A
yourself
ripper here.
and
A ripper.
Levingston, the other four young women that you were talking to, Colin Albert, was Ms. Caitlin Albert there at that point, if you recall?
Not at that point, no.
So that's what my question was
Okay.
in relation to that time, who, if anyone, was.
Right. So Adam Lally covers for her. And after watching this, Adam Lally knows that they're all lying. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that he knows they're all lying. He knows they're all hiding something. He absolutely knows. He's going to put his head down and do his little job and do humdy humdy hum. Who cares? And he was ready to go back to round 2. He was ready the second that this ended to do it again.
Okay. No, not at that time. I don't remember.
Right. So then she also knows, because she's been coached. If you,
could have been an argument.
If you get stuck, just say, I don't remember. And that's what she did.
It could have been a push, maybe.
How would you describe sort of the mood and demeanor within?
Yeah, everyone was having a good time. It was Brian's birthday, so we were there just to have fun.
And you see one-sided shoulder shrug. You see her once again trying to validate her statement. So this is a deception tag, and this is deceptive.
And at any point in time with this sort of initial group, did you see anybody go to any other area of the house beyond sort of the kitchen and dining room area?
No.
Now, at some point, did members of this sort of initial group, did they leave the house at some point over the course of the evening?
Yes.
And who left first? And as who left first and about what time?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who left at what point, but I know that Catherine Duty, Emily Fabiano, Mary Kent, and Courtney Alba left. I would say, and Colin left like before midnight.
Oh, so you see how God, it's so obvious, right? Do you see it? I hope you see it. It is so obvious. It is so painfully obvious that she is manipulating when Colin was there. To me, I don't even know how these people, first of all, I don't know how they sleep at night, but I also don't know how they thought they were going to get away with this without us noticing. It's just absurd. Like, this is so blatant. Like, you see what she's doing? I really hope everybody sees this. I really hope, because it is so blatant.
At the same time, or did they leave at sort of staggered points?
I would say staggered times.
Yeah, I would say.
With reference to Colin Albert, do you know about what time he left?
I would probably say 11:30, 11:45.
Yeah, probably. I'd probably say that.
And do you have any idea sort of how Colin, similar to what I asked about the other young ladies, do you have any recollection as far as how he got there, or how he left, or anything like that?
I'm not quite sure. No.
But do you recall specifically seeing him leave from the house?
Yes.
And which door would he have left?
I'm not sure exactly what door, but I know.
Do you recall seeing him leave the house? Yes. Which door did he exit? God, I have no idea, right? It's just so absurd. And then she knows she's lying, so she tries to cover by giving us extra information, which is what all of these liars do. And then her mucous membranes are completely drying out because she's lying her disgraceful face off.
Someone did pick him up, but I'm not sure who did. So.
Yep.
And
see,
so
there she is with her deception tag, verifying her lie with a head nod.
Yeah, that's it, Ticket.
When it comes to the front door of Fairview Road, there's 2 doors in the front area of the house.
Yes.
And as far as with respect to either of those 2 doors, you don't remember him leaving from some other door to the house, correct?
Correct.
So if he left, or when he left, it would have been from one of those 2 front doors?
Yes.
Now,
Adam Lally, what a scumbag. What other door, Adam Lally, would he have gone out, right? So if he had left, would it have been from one of those 2 doors? Like, what kind of a question is that?
At some point, at least after Ms. Kent, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Duty, and Ms. Alba left, did people that lived at the house or other people sort of come back to the house?
Yes.
And about what time was it?
I'm not too sure, but I'd say a little after midnight.
Here she is. She's verifying. So she's trying. The reason why that's deceptive is because she knows exactly what time it was, but she's trying to pretend like she doesn't know times, like everybody else. Don't hold me to this because I don't know anything about time. This thing I learned about in 1st grade, I don't know anything about now as an adult woman. So that's why that was deceptive. She does know what time it was.
Who were the first people sort of to arrive in this, we'll call them sort of the second group?
I don't remember who came, like who was first, who was second, like that.
Wow. So that was very, very, very sensitive, and she's lying. So she does remember who came in first and knows exactly what the order was, but she doesn't want to tell us because she's about to give us whatever the rehearsed BS line she's supposed to is.
But I know who came, but I don't know what order.
And who were the people that came?
Yeah, so it was Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Brian Jr.'s parents, Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Higgins, and that's it. And Caitlin Albert, sorry.
All right, so Brian Higgins was the important person there, for whatever that's worth.
And so when they came back, as far as the other four young women that you were talking about, they had already left, is that correct?
Yes.
And Colin Albert, was he still there when those people came back?
He left as well.
Now remember, according to every other witness, Colin Albert is there when the group coming back from the waterfall gets there. Everybody agrees, or at least has agreed, to say that much, but not Julie, because again, she didn't get the Colin memo, apparently.
And so Brian Albert Sr. and Nicole Albert, those Brian Albert Jr.'s parents?
Correct, yes.
You were familiar with them, obviously, prior to January 28th?
Yes.
And you mentioned Jennifer and Matthew McCabe.
And you'll know when she answers a regular question, honestly, she's not verifying her answers. No head nod. No, yep, that's the ticket.
Correct?
Yes.
And were you familiar with them prior to January 20th?
Yes.
And with respect to Brian Higgins, is that someone that you knew prior to January 20th?
I did not know.
You met the first time that night at the Fairview?
Correct, yes.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the filming area. The floor plan, which was the kitchen and the dining room area.
All right, so there it is. Thank you, Julie. God, I don't know how I missed this. I don't know if I did miss this. I just didn't put it in context. I just, sometimes it takes me a while because you guys, to be fair, there is an incredible amount of evidence in this case. I don't even know how to describe it. This case is a once in a lifetime, maybe in many lifetimes case, because there is a ton of evidence. I'm convinced that I could have a team of people working under me around the clock, focusing only on this case and still not get to it all. And that's why the defense was so limited in their presentation of evidence, because it's endless. Just this testimony. So I'm going to play it again because this is for all the money, you guys. This is for the big money right here. This is something we all missed, and it is absolutely critical. I finally got the answer to the question that I've been trying to ask for freaking a year. I finally know the answer, and it's because of this monster human being. Sorry, I'm trying not to be mean, who has inserted herself in the middle of this, decide to die on the hill with the Albert family, who she is 100% embedded to and with. Let's hear it again.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the filming area. The floor plan, which was the kitchen and the dining room area.
So we were still all hanging in the same area, the family room. Then she catches it and tries to figure out horribly on the fly. And let me also point this out before I continue. You remember when Karina Kolakithis made a mistake on the stand? She started to say CF McCarthy's, and then she corrected herself. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm nervous, the waterfall."
So that's when I went to CF. I'm sorry, I went to the waterfall. Sorry, a little nervous.
But not Julie Nagel. Julie Nagel can't do that. And why can't she do that? Because this is textbook consciousness of guilt. This is deception. This is fabrication. This was leakage. She just told us they were in the family room. Now, I ask you all, and if you are somebody who's followed this case closely, listen up. This is huge. It's huge. It's absolutely huge, because all of us believed these piece of garbage human beings when they told us that they were in that kitchen, dining room area. And you know why I believe them? Because as a kid, when I did a lot of partying in my younger years, that's where we would always be, in the kitchen, right? In the kitchen area. Why? I don't know. But we used to laugh and joke. Why is everybody hanging out in the kitchen? Well, that's not where they were hanging out. So why, I ask you, are they moving the party into the dining room?
Yeah.
Why would they move everybody into the dining room? There is only one reason to move the party from the family room into the dining room.
And I saw him reach the breezeway door, which is the side front door. And he opened the door and went to walk in.
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family here. The floor plan, which is the kitchen and the dining room area. Yeah.
At any point in time, but let me ask you this, they come sometime shortly around or after midnight, is that fair to say?
Yes.
About how long after they arrived, or about what time was it that you left the house for the evening?
Look, I'm just an innocent snowflake, and I'm just being I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Look, pretending to listen intently, like she doesn't know that she just made a colossal mistake. A colossal mistake. Tilt her head because now she's all of a sudden I'm just an innocent little girl.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yep. And she can't focus on what he's saying because she's still focused on.
Do you all hear what she said? Go back.
Because it's endless. Just this testimony. So I'm going to play it again because this is for all the money, you guys. This is for the big money right here. This is something we all missed.
Watch it. Hang on.
It is.
Hang on. Un momento. There's it.
Absolutely critical. I finally got the answer to the question that I've been trying to ask for freaking a year. I finally know the answer, and it's because of this monster human being, sent embedded to and with. Let's hear it again.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family here.
We're all the same in the family. Go again. We're all in the.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family here.
We're all still in the same room in the family room. Or the family.
The floor plan, which is the kitchen and the dining room area.
Tries to cover it.
So we were still all hanging in the same area, the family room. Then she catches it.
Yeah, but this confirms to her, like, that he was in the house, because watching the other video before, she can show that there is a possibility that he got in there without anyone seeing him at all.
And tries to figure out horribly on the fly. And let me also point this out before I continue. You remember when Karina Kolakithis made a mistake on the stand? She started to say CF McCarthy's, and then she corrected herself. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm nervous, the waterfall."
So that's when I went to CF.
All of them see John O'Keefe walk into that house, through the side door, into that family room. Thank you very much, Julie Nagel. But there's more, everybody. There's more. You ready? You ready for this?
At some point, you went home that night?
Yes.
What time was it?
I would say, give or take, like 1:45.
And so between the time that they came back to the house around 12:15 or so, between that and 1:45, how would you describe sort of the mood and the demeanor in the house at that time?
It was still all the same. Everyone was having fun, hanging out.
Music still playing, people drinking, having a good time?
Yes.
And over the course of this time, as far as the group that you talked about was in the kitchen and dining room area, did you see any of those people go anywhere else?
I mean, to the bathroom, but I know at one point, Mr. Albert, Brian's Jr.'s dad, took upstairs to let the dog out back. But he just opened the back door and watched him from the door and brought him right back upstairs. So,
yeah, that's all that happened, guys. Yeah, that's all that happened. Yep. So now what do we know? Thanks to Julie Nagel, we now know this is not all that happened. Suddenly, I'm starting to have a newfound love for this woman. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. You have just solved a mystery that has been in my heart and mind for a very long time. I feel like I should give you a big kiss, dear.
That was the only time he like went upstairs, but
Yeah, that was it. But that's all. Just that was it. Look at that.
And as far as
Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Do you see this? What is going on? She just gave the whole thing away. If you are the feds, if anybody in law enforcement, you want to lean on somebody, my God, bring this woman into an interrogation room and read her the riot act, threaten to put her in prison for the rest of her life for conspiracy to cover up the murder of a police officer. And I bet you get something from her.
kitchen dining room area, recall sort of how people were situated around that area during the time the second group was there?
Yeah, we were all sitting in like the kitchen table. It's like a square table, so we're all just hanging out around there.
Yeah.
Some at like the island in the kitchen.
It's not this.
Mostly
This
all
is
just there
just
together.
absolutely not true. There it is. Not true. They are not in the island. They are not in the kitchen area. They are in the family room when John O'Keefe walks in the room.
I'm not quite sure.
And when he arrived, did he come into the house or did he reach out to you in any way to let him know?
He just texted. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Did he reach out to you at any point to let you know that he was there?
Yes, he did text me saying that he was outside.
And upon receiving that text, where did you go?
I went out through the front door.
Now, before you went out through the front door, what, if any, conversation, well, let me strike that as far as conversation, but who, if anyone, did you speak to about the fact that your brother was outside the house?
Yeah, I just mentioned saying my brother's outside. I do remember someone or a few,
I want to hear the answer first.
just a few people saying, "Oh, just have your brother come in." So I went outside, and it was my brother in the passenger seat, his friend Ricky, and then his ex-girlfriend Heather. I asked them if they wanted to come in. They said no.
I'm going to let that stand. But next question.
So you go outside to where your brother is, right?
Yes,
And you recall which of the two front doors you used to go outside?
I used the front door.
Front door is the one with the brick steps, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
You come down the brick steps, go down the walkway. Do you recall how you came down to where your brother was?
I walked down the steps through the little path, and then down the driveway, and they were parked right in front of the driveway.
So they were parked right at the end of the driveway?
Yes.
And what kind of vehicle was this that you came up?
It was Ricky's pickup truck, of Ford F-150.
Where is that in relation to the pickup truck that Ricky's got?
Well, it was like the SUV wasn't there when my brother was there. It was like before. Like when I was inside, I noticed it.
That's different.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
put these pieces together. What have we learned? We learned definitively this group is not hanging out in the kitchen. That when everybody comes back from the waterfall, they are indeed in the family room. And the question that then leads us to is, why lie about that? Who cares about whether you're in the family room or the kitchen or the dining room? Well, unless when Karen Reed tells us that she watched John go to the breezeway door and break the plane, actually open it and go inside. She does have a distinct memory of that. And then, maybe even seconds after that, Julie Nagel walks out that same door and goes and greets her brother. And because Julie sees John, she assumes all the while from that point on, any conversation that she has with Brian Albert Jr. or the family or the McCabe's or whoever that she's rehearsing with, she believes her brother arrives after John because she's probably wasted, right? And she didn't look at the car that was in front of the house at that moment because she didn't care. She was there just to go talk to her brother to say, I'm staying. But because she had seen John before she stepped out, she didn't know the car was in front of her brother. She didn't know that Ricky D'Antano's truck was behind Karen Reed's SUV. That's not what she was looking at. So this whole time, she assumed, had no idea what her brother saw, had no idea what Heather Maxson saw. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Ryan Nagel isn't in the know. Julie may not have even told her family because this is so serious. So serious. And my guess is they just want this to go away. Julie wants to go away. Sarah wants to go away. They don't ever want to think about this again. This is far and away the worst thing that has ever happened to these people. It also explains why it is that Jen McCabe just a day or two later would want to know when the text message from Julie's brother about him being outside, the one that's like, here, come outside, time to go. It also makes sense why Jen would want that, because she knows
That's the timeline.
that that's the exact time when John walks into the house. Whatever time Julie walks out of that house, John O'Keefe has walked in seconds before. So that text message is critical. It's critical for Jen McCabe as she's starting to try to put all the pieces together, and they have to build their story. And this then helps us to understand those group texts where they were just praying that Karen Reed would plea out somehow so that they would never have to be dragged into this. Because for the beginning part of all of this, their story really wasn't tight at all. They tried to keep the kids out of all of it, lied outright because they knew Michael Proctor was the lead investigator, so why the hell not? But then it became clear that Karen was going to fight, and the state made a terrible mistake when they upcharged Karen Reed. Talk about hubris, these people. My God, they were so dumb, just incredibly dumb. It's just the stupidity at the highest level. If they had just charged her with like a simple DUI manslaughter case, probably none of this happens. But instead, they had to try to get her for second-degree murder, intentional homicide in the heat of the moment. It's just so absurd. And, you know, one thing that loophole lawyer loves to talk about is confirmation bias. And the problem with confirmation bias, there has never been a more clear-cut case of confirmation bias than the state of Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Because these guys, they believed, or they wanted to believe, that Karen Reed was guilty so desperately that they were willing to take any piece of evidence they had and try to fit it like a round peg in a square hole and just keep pounding away until they got close enough to make a case to a jury. And the crazy and sad and terrible part is that, well, I guess if you stack all of the cards against the defendant, because you've got the judge, all of the witnesses colluding behind your back, you've got the prosecutor's office, all these people, the Massachusetts State Police, the Boston Police, the local police, operating as one unit to try to make sure that this one person goes to jail. Doesn't matter what the evidence shows, almost. It almost doesn't matter, except that the story they're telling is so egregious, is so absurd, is so ridiculous, doesn't fit at all because John O'Keefe didn't have a bruise on his body, that in the end, even stacking the deck didn't matter. Because it's just, you can't get past it. It's just, she didn't do it. There's just... But then that leaves all of these people with a really uncomfortable question. And the poor O'Keefe family, these poor freaking people. If there's one group of folks that I would never want to trade places with in a million lifetimes, it's Ms. O'Keefe and that family, those kids, John's niece and nephew. These freaking kids, these freaking people have been, in a scary way, in a way that is only, the only word for it is terrifying, have been completely manipulated by Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's little minion, who he let loose onto the town, onto the community, to try to ensure that those that are the closest to John O'Keefe are on their side. Maybe the smartest decision that they made, because as long as the family supports the prosecution, supports the fact that Karen did this, then they don't ever have to try it again. They don't ever have to have a real investigation. They can just let this go and hope it goes away. Hope that the community just forgets about it. Look, guys, I am not a mathematician. I'm not a software engineer. I'm not a cell phone or data expert of any kind. My area of expertise is studying the human condition, is how people think, how people behave, how people experience reality. And what I can tell you, this comes from my heart and soul, and I believe it with every fiber of my being. These people know exactly what happened to John O'Keefe, and some group within that house is directly responsible for his death. You'll also note that one of the places that Julie Nagel struggles most in her testimony is where she's talking about Brian Albert Sr. taking the dog out. She loses it. Yeah, that's all. That's it. That's all that happened. Yep, that's all. Which is one of those moments that definitively tells us that's not all. And so you look at all the questions that over the course of these 3 hours, I started to put together. And there's one very clear way to explain them all. John O'Keefe walks into that house. These people see it, and something goes down very quickly. I know that my partner on Monday, loophole lawyer, does not want to believe that Colin Albert is in that house, and I know lots of people don't. And believe me, if I could look you in the eye and tell you with any level of certainty that Colin is not in that house, I would. But he is. And as much as I want to clear Colin Albert because he's a child, and because I don't want to see some kid's life be ruined, I can't. I actually want to rule Colin out, and I can't do it because all of the evidence based on the statements of these witnesses leads me to believe otherwise. I did not expect to open up Pandora's box. This was not my intention, but I should have known this is what would happen or something like this because it always does. Now I have to adjust my brain to this new reality and start to work from there. So my guess is you can expect a lot more of that from me. Thanks for watching.
It is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of...
Right, so Adam Lally covers for her. And after watching this, Adam Lally knows that they're all lying. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that he knows they're all lying. He knows they're all hiding something. He absolutely, I just didn't put it in context.
You meant the first time that night at the Fairview?
Correct, yes.
This is my favorite bit.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family year. The floor plan.
We're all in the same room in the family. Okay.
Correct, yes.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family year. The floor plan, which is the kitchen and the dining room area.
All right, so there it is. Thank you, Julie. God. I don't know how I missed this. I don't know if I did miss this. I just didn't put it in context. Sometimes it takes me a while because there's, you guys, to be fair, there is an incredible amount of evidence in this case. I don't even know how to describe it. This case is a once in a lifetime, maybe in many lifetimes case, because there is a ton of evidence. I'm convinced that I could have a team of people working under me around the clock, focusing only on this case and still not get to it all. And that's why the defense was so limited in their presentation of evidence, because it's endless. Just this testimony. So I'm going to play it again because this is for all the money, you guys. This is for the big money right here. This is something we all missed, and it is absolutely critical. I finally got the answer to the question that I've been trying to ask for freaking a year. I finally know the answer, and it's because of this monster human being. Sorry, I'm trying not to be mean, who has inserted herself in the middle of this, decide to die on the hill with the Albert family, who she is 100% embedded to and with. Let's hear it again.
And when they came into the house, this sort of second group, where was it that they went and sort of congregated around the house?
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family year. The floor plan, which is the kitchen and the dining room area.
So we were still all hanging in the same area, the family room. Then she catches it and tries to figure out horribly on the fly. And let me also point this out before I continue. You remember when Karina Kolakithis made a mistake on the stand? She started to say CF McCarthy's, and then she corrected herself. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm nervous, the waterfall."
So that's when I went to CF. I went to the waterfall. Sorry, a little nervous.
But not Julie Nagel. Julie Nagel can't do that. And why can't she do that? Because this is textbook consciousness of guilt. This is deception. This is fabrication. This was leakage. She just told us they were in the family room. Now, I ask you all, and if you are somebody who's followed this case closely, listen up. This is huge. It's huge. It's absolutely huge, because all of us believed these piece of garbage human beings when they told us that they were in that kitchen, dining room area. And you know why I believe them? Because as a kid, when I did a lot of partying in my younger years, that's where we would always be, in the kitchen, right? In the kitchen area. Why? I don't know. But we used to laugh and joke. Why is everybody hanging out in the kitchen? Well, that's not where they were hanging out. So why, I ask you, are they moving the party into the dining room? Why would they move everybody into the dining room? There is only one reason to move the party from the family room into the dining room.
And I saw him reach the breezeway door, which is the side front door. And he opened the door and went to walk in.
Yeah, we all were still in the same room in the family area. The floor plan, which was the kitchen and the dining room area. Yeah.
At any point in time, well, let me ask you this. They come sometime shortly around or after midnight. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
About how long after they arrived, or about what time was it that you left the house for the evening?
Look, I'm just an innocent snowflake, and I'm just being I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Look, pretending to listen intently, like she doesn't know that she just made a colossal mistake. A colossal mistake. Tilt her head, because now she's all of a sudden I'm just an innocent little girl.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yep. And she can't focus on what he's saying because she's still focused on the colossal mistake that she just made. Thank you, Julie Nagel, because you just gave us all of the information that we needed to start to put this together for real. And you know what that tells us, everybody, ladies and gentlemen? For the win, John O'Keefe walks into that family room, and all of these piece of garbage human beings see him do it. All of them. Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, Brian Albert Jr., Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe, Nicole Albert, and the big boy, Brian Albert Sr., and Brian Higgins. All of them see John O'Keefe walk into that house through the side door into that family room. Thank you very much, Julie Nagel. But there's more, everybody. There's more.
All right. I don't think there was anything at the... What's that bit?
Now, what could that possibly be? Speaks to her brother. Now, there's only one way that Ms. Julie Nagel could possibly believe wholeheartedly that that Lexus is there before she talks to her brother. Because clearly she doesn't see the car when she goes out to speak to them because she's not paying attention to it. Now, what could that possibly be?
So when John got out of the car, he took my full vodka soda, which is sitting in the cup holder. And I saw him reach the breezeway door, which is the side front door. And he opened the door and went to walk in.
This is the arrival of John O'Keefe's phone at 34 Fairview, correct? At the end of it says, show the device moving west from the roadside towards the house. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
The next says, from the combination of device location and bearing, it does appear that the device started to move towards the house. The first part is, again, a statement that the device has started to move toward the house. This location data is immediately followed by 12 minutes of low accuracy records, which offer no reliable location information. The reason for such low accuracy location data at this time is not known, as there are many possible reasons why the accuracy was reduced. There's a little grammar issue there. This could include reasons such as the device entered a building covered area, the result of weather conditions, geography, poor connectivity. Interesting and notable, you did not include that depiction in your timeline that you discussed with a jury yesterday, did you?
She is honestly claiming that the SUV was in front of 34 Fairview before she goes out to speak to her brother. And she's telling us the truth, at least in this sentence.
The SUV wasn't there when my brother was there. It was like before.
Unfamiliar with the town that she didn't live in, Karen went slightly out of the way to get there, coming from the east on Cedar Crest Road. She missed the left-hand turn onto Fairview Road, did a U-turn in the driveway, and then she went back to Fairview Road. When she did so, a truck was coming from the opposite direction and was trying to turn left on Fairview Road. Inside that truck was Ricky D'Antano, Heather Maxon, and her boyfriend Ryan Nagel, whose sister Julie Nagel was a friend of Brian Albert Jr. and had called him looking for a ride home.
And then Ricky turned after them. How far ahead of Ricky were they?
Maybe 100 feet.
Could you see them the entire time?
No.
Could you see them the entire time?
No.
What is the only possible reason that she could have for placing that SUV, honestly, in front of 34 Fairview before she walks out of the house? If you're not quite catching my drift yet, don't worry. We're going to put it all together at the very end. There's only one reason. And I'll give you a hint. It's not because she saw the SUV outside, which is what she's going to tell us now. Because this is the rehearsed statement, which should sound a little familiar to you.
So when I noticed looking out the window, I did notice the SUV in front of the mailbox, and then pulled up a little bit in front of the yard, and then stopped, and then pulled up again towards the flagpole.
So you saw it in sort of 3 different locations at the time that you were seeing it?
Correct, yes.
And if you recall the time that Julie gets up and goes outside to talk to her brother, where were you within the house?
I was still sitting at the dining room table.
I'm talking later in the evening when the folks come back to the house after midnight. Do you remember where those people were sort of situated around the kitchen dining room area at that time?
Yes.
And could you describe to the jury sort of where they were?
So the dining room table is a square. So, and it was in front of the front window. So in front of the front window where their back would be to the window was my friend Julie Nagel.
And as far as the kitchen dining room area, do you recall sort of how people were situated around that area during the time that the second group was there?
Yeah, we were all sitting in like the kitchen table. It's like a square table, so we're all just hanging out around there. Some at like the island in the kitchen, but mostly all just there together.
Yeah, that's a ticket.
Do you recall specifically, I know we're talking over 2 years ago, do you recall specifically where people were within that area around the table?
I don't know.
Do you recall where you were?
I was sitting like in the corner, so I could see like the island, the kitchen table, like the front door, and like the windows, I guess.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. Head you back to
If the window's here, I was sitting on this side, facing kind of, I could see the front door. And then to my right, Brian Sr. and Mr. Higgins were standing.
Do you recall who was sort of around you, where you were at the table? Immediately around you as well.
I would say Jennifer, McCabe, Sarah Levinson, Caitlin. I can remember like sitting at the table like with me. Yeah.
And Mrs. Albert Nicole was sitting with her back to the front door area.
This is a 1.5 space.
And Jen and Matt and Caitlin, I don't believe were sitting.
I sat at the table and I just spoke to Brian and Katie and the 2 girls most of the night.
And then to my right, Brian Sr. and Mr. Higgins were standing.
When I walk in, Caitlin, Albert, Brian Albert, Julie Nagel, and Sarah Levinson are all sitting at the kitchen table. My sister Nicole was in the kitchen wiping the counters because she's always cleaning. And Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were in the, I guess you'd call it the TV room area, just standing and talking.
So my guess here is that Sarah Levinson, when she recounts where everybody is positioned allegedly around the table, she's actually recounting where everybody was positioned in the family room. So we're probably getting a close picture of the layout, who was standing or sitting next to who, but she's moving us out of the family room and into the dining room, kitchen area. And
All right, so with all that information, let's get that off now. What they've established basically is that what Sam's saying is that everyone was in the family room drinking there. Okay, and that's the room that has the breezeway door attached to it. So that's the door that Karen saw John enter. And as the other video showed with case analysis, that he could have quickly, as it was freezing outside, run, or not run, but like strode quickly towards that breezeway door from the car. That would have taken all of, 10 seconds, with the glass in his hand. Now, if he goes into that door and kicks his shoes off, he's got his socks on and it's a wooden floor. He's intoxicated, his balance is affected, and he basically sticks his head in or enters into that door where everybody is sitting. So what she's trying to say is that everybody saw John enter the house. So between Sam and case analysis, that would mean that everybody saw what happened. Yeah, everybody, according to Sam, everyone knows that he came in the house. And the case analysis theory is that by doing so, sort of at a similar time, Brian Albert has opened the back door to let Chloe in, and Chloe, not recognising John, has pretty much charged and jumped him and knocked him backwards. But at the same time, he was taking a sip from his drink, and that impact smashed the glass into his face, which caused the laceration to his nose and his eyebrow, cup size. Cup. Then he fell back onto that, hitting his head on that hearth, and would have been rendered unconscious there. But it would be very difficult to clean blood out of the brickwork and out of wooden floors, which is why it was important that that investigation did not go into the house. I wonder if that would still show up now. Surely it would. How long does that stay? I mean, no doubt we've been told that Nicole is the furious cleaner, so who knows how many times bleach has been over there. But the concept of him entering the house with Julie not seeing him because she's coming out the front door and him coming in the breezeway, and the fact that Ryan Nagel and Heather Maxim did not see him leave the car because they were a fair bit back. It was just enough time for him to get in and get, yes, they did rip out the basement, yes. I'm tipping that that's where they took him. The lady on case analysis suggested that he was propped up outside behind the gate, but I don't believe so. The temperature on his mobile doesn't drop quickly enough to be exposed to the elements at that time. It drops after the 3:30 mark. I dare you to do a test, okay? Here's my challenge for you. Just for shits and gigs. Go in and find all of the information on, or put in all of the information on John into ChatGPT. You want to put, don't put any times, just say, okay, head injury, what type of clothing he was wearing, what his blood alcohol concentration was, what his vitreous, the blood alcohol content levels in his vitreous liquid in his eyes, because that's important. That changes, that tells you when he stopped drinking, basically, before he died. His body temperature when he was found. The position that he was in. So he was laying on his back. his weight, his height, everything that you can think of. Type it into ChatGPT and ask them what his time of death was, or what was the cause of death, and it pretty much repeated Irene Scotty Bellows' medical examination. 100%. Oh, the database. I've tried it twice now. I've asked it. I think I've asked the question the wrong way because it picked up all the as far as repetitive phrases goes, it picked up all the times people said no. I don't remember. All the little shit. And I tried to do it again and it didn't work. Fucking thing. So where is it? Hang on, I'll just bring it up. Fucking hell. So the repetitive it repeated like where the layout of the house basically. So, you know, it was to the right of the kitchen. How many not that I remember was repeated. No was repeated. I did not see anybody repeated. It was correct. That is correct. Was repeated. Just it picked up all the wrong shit. No, I personally did not. Yeah. Yeah. Wrong answers. Sorry. What else did it pick up? Everybody was hanging out, normal, no tension. Everybody was happy. General mood was good. Alan Jackson's clothes. Oh, I didn't read that bit. Brian Higgins forgot his narrative at least for a second, and he admitted a man did in fact come into the house, and when he was caught and asked to describe that man, he was tall with dark hair. Where did Brian Higgins say that he saw that dark figure? Brian Albert's testimony. I was watching Chloe downstairs, monitoring her because of the other people in the house. She's not good with strangers. And his first testimony said that he went upstairs with Higgins to look at the photos, and the second one, it was downstairs in the living room or the den. So that was the expressions they picked up. Sorry, not that I remember. That's correct. The bullshit stuff. I'd have to word it a bit better when I ask the question, unfortunately. So that was a nothing burger. So if you want to go and have a look at the full, I recommend going to Sam's I Don't Belong Here. She did the three-part series on this. And that was just the last half of the end one. So it's better if you watch the introduction to it and how she came to that conclusion and the lead up to it and all the testimonies and which drove her to that point. But then you combine that with the lady that did the case analysis, and a lot of the components fit together. Oh, Teresia, stop that. You've been watching the cat seat in the back here, haven't you? You know why that's there? Because I shit you not, the second that I was due to go live, Felix had a conniption. And so I fed him while the intro was running. You're going to stop that. Stop it. You're far too generous. Thank you.
Out to the person that just gave us a super chat. This community is just the best. Love you all the different.
Refill the kitty bowl. I would ask your AI to play Mary Fuck Kill with Jen McCabe. What? Is that an actual song? I did narrow it down to the House defendants, and it did the same fucking thing. Yep. I will word it better. Is that actually a song, or? I've never heard of it. There is some funny songs out there, though. Very funny songs out there. What was the name of the channel that put up Fuck You, Hank? Love it. So yes, the links to both of the ladies are in the description box. So do yourself a favour and head on over and give them a like and a sub, because they've put a lot of work. Well, I know Sam has. She has been studying each and every testimony, each and every word, each and every phrase, every blink, every bit of body language as well for 18 months. And yeah, she's put in the hard yards. All right, well, oh shit, the sun's up. Oops. Oh dear. That explains why my back's sore. All right, well, thanks again for joining me. I should be, I've got to confirm it, but should be up for our update stream with the girls on Sunday evening. Just keep your eye out for the thumbnail. That will be up there. And hopefully we don't have to postpone. Hopefully they're all well. I know Ty's good, but I haven't spoken to Brandy a couple of days. Alrighty then. Mwah. Love you all. Thanks for being here. And if you can't be good at it. Be nice to your mother. And hasta la vista, bitches. Bye-bye.
Hey there, thanks for stopping in. We hope you will join us again. We all look forward to next time. We get to talk about true crime. Clues. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule and the defense rests. Our true crime family is great. All types of topics we debate. Smash that like and ring that bell. Hit subscribe, you might as well.